Hey, it's Drybear. The PAX East Season 3 dev stream has concluded, so let's recap everything that was shown, everything that's coming into the game, and everything that's in the future for the First Descendant. First off, there were some stream incentives that were related to view count. So the live view count, the concurrent viewers that were on the stream for the broadcast, they had listed a whole bunch of milestones to hit, all the way up to 20k concurrent viewers, which we did hit. So all of the rewards that were shown on that will be given out. I imagine they'll just be mailed to your inbox in game at some point, either with the patch coming up in the next 2 weeks or, you know, maybe even this week in general, depending on how they want to distribute that. But everything listed on screen, they didn't give any like numbers or quantity. I imagine it's going to be one of each of all of these, and you know, it's like 5 million gold or something like that. They showed a little bit of it on their like goal to 20k, and they said they were going to announce it, but then they kind of just showed this general image, so it's hard to kind of keep track of like what was the mystery element to it, they were going to say. But at least these items are coming into the mailbox. These are probably 2 or 3 of the most popular paint colors, you know, catalysts, activators, yada yada. So this is coming your way. Starting with a very big revelation that has impact on Season 3, but will also have impact on the future, as many times people have been asking about NPC and playable characters in the First Descendant becoming a part of the playable character cast. People talk about Captain Harris, Dr. Kate, and many others like Alpha. They really just want those to be part of it because they see the characters all the time, they hear them on the comms, and they really want to play them. And so there was a discussion point in the broadcast of what is the content of Season 3? What is the story? And they mentioned that the story will highlight the budding romance between Enzo and Nell, the information officer. So we've got that to go on for that. However, they said that a big revelation that they haven't really mentioned before, but they confirmed direct from the director's mouth that any person can develop RK over time, which means that if they aren't someone who has RK, they're just a normal human being, they're not a descendant, it is possible for basically anyone to develop RK over time. I don't know what impact this has for like Glay, who went and got tested 20 times and then only got RK when she was in crisis or things like that. Same thing for Sharon, basically. She was like near death and developed it and things like that. But they did mention that the focus will be on Enzo and Nell, and the next big reveal, which is probably my favorite reveal of the stream, which I can imagine you've already surmised based on that intro, that Nell will be a playable descendant in the First Descendant. She is the next new descendant to join the game. Now, they mentioned that because of the connection with Enzo, that she is going to be a little Enzo adjacent. So she's going to be focusing on like weapons or the manipulation of gadgets and things like that. So she's very much like a Lara Croft, Claire Redfield, Jill Valentine kind of vibe, you know, very much like the gadget, high action, you know, action movie protagonist. As far as like the abilities go for Nell, they said that she will be able to use a sieve, so like your scan, as part of her kit, which makes sense for a strategic information officer. So she'll be able to use her sieve to mark enemies. So by scanning and revealing the weakness of enemies as a strategist would, she will be able to mark the enemies using her sieve, and then she will be able to trigger bonus damage on those enemies that are marked by that process. She also will be able to deploy spears, is what they called it. So spears that weaken enemies and debuff enemies, and she will also be able to change all of her gunshots, her weapon shots, into guaranteed weak point hits. Likely this is some kind of self buff, and potentially she might even be able to give this buff to others. This has crazy implications for modules like Real Life Fighter, where you get increasing value if you continually hit weak points. If you can buff yourself to guarantee weak point hits, then Real Life Fighter becomes an easy choice, and maybe there's some cool weak point specific builds that go along with this from the weapon standpoint. They also mentioned that because she is Enzo adjacent, she will be the second descendant in the game that will be able to get a bonus when opening vaults out in the world. So you will be able to use either Nell or Enzo to do that if you are looking for it. So that will expand that option there. And generally, I'm happy with it. Nell's one of my favorite characters. I'm so glad they're actually adding her to that kit. And I think her vibe is very basic, all black, but it is it is kind of have its TFD vibe to it as well. And I think it fits her. Like I said, it gives me like the main protagonist in in a horror slash exploration game kind of vibe to it, which I think fits her really well. They also in their broadcast mentioned that the story of season 3 will be more like main storyline focus. So over the time, like basically through season 1, season 2, we started out in the core game learning about Amon and Karel and how they're trying to take over the world and capture all of the super arcade Magooba Goobas out there. And then for a while, we focused instead on invasions and the Vulgus destroying our emplacements, and then discovering Sigma Sector after a lost time, and finding Serena and finding Dia and things like that. It was like very much side questy, but they said that with season 3 they're getting back on the main quest, which means we're going to find out more about Karel. He's going to be super involved with it, and it's going to be main storyline like expansion kind of content, at least for the story development. Next up, they confirmed what we kind of already guessed at this point. What is the next ultimate for the First Descendant is Ultimate Luna. So we know we're getting Ultimate Luna there. They did mention that when Ultimates come out in the future, they want to use that as an opportunity to rework, buff, or change the character if necessary. We'll see what they end up doing here, because someone had asked about the gameplay of Luna, and they were kind of praising it as being unique and fun. So they weren't really asking like major questions around Luna's gameplay in general. So it doesn't sound like they're going to make any major change, but maybe they are. However, from that standpoint, they did describe, at least in small detail, what the 2 new modules will be for Ultimate Luna, which will give us at least a little bit of room understanding what they plan to do with her. So one module of the new Transcendent modules for Ultimate Luna will be focused on debuffing. So the like playing into your performance and actually playing a support role, like buffing teammates, debuffing enemies, things like that. So it's going to focus more on your unique play style with the song. And the second Ultimate Transcendent module, the red mod that we're looking for, is I think what people have been asking for on Luna, but maybe not in a way that might solve the problem. I guess we'll just have to see, right? The second module that they mentioned is going to focus on firearms. So they're going to have a red mod for Luna that will focus on using real weapons, not her unique weapon, not her song. And this will probably, I mean, I feel like her entire kit, like all 4 of her abilities, are around her playing her song. So if they add a red mod that will focus on using firearms, not the unique weapon instead, I'm curious what that's going to change, right? Is that something that's going to change all of the abilities to something else? We sometimes see red modules that will change out 1 or 2 abilities to do something completely different. So maybe this will end up reworking a lot of the way she plays, and might allow for a weapons build for Luna, which hasn't really been possible unless you're just going to completely disregard her entire kit. Next up, another big reveal here is they're adding a 4th Legion for season 3, and this one looks really cool. So this is the Legion of Breach. We already have the 3 legions right now, which, you know, one kind of have the toxin vibe to it, one has kind of like the mutation vibe to it, but this is going to be the focus for the Legion of Breach, and it looks like it's a combination of mech elements. So we kind of see like the mech soldier here, and like the mech android slash cyborg mixture. Like some of these, like it looks like this one is full android, but this one kind of has some human elements to it. So maybe this is a mix between human and you know, flesh and metal, something like that. You've got what looks kind of like a Tyrannid, or a Zerg, or maybe even like the Starship Troopers bug, but it's kind of mechanical and organic mixed together. And you also have this monster up here, which is like a blend of mutant, like it's almost like Doom-like. Like if you look at the Doom universe, where it's like devils mixed with machinery, it kind of looks like that for these as well. But I think it's a nice addition related to the other legions that we have, and I think this is going to be super cool. And hopefully we get some actual like bosses and commander level monsters that are a little bit more monster like and a little bit less Vulgus like, maybe with this kind of mixture there. But it is a cool presentation. They also showed off this 2D concept, which I imagine is a Colossus, or maybe just a commander level enemy. Again, kind of mutant, almost kaiju, like, you know, reptilian kind of like to it, but you know, it's got some chitinous armor plating pieces and, you know, more of that vibe, but obviously has the metal in built into it as well, and then some of like this sci-fi future tech armor at the bottom there as well. So hopefully this, I imagine this probably is like a commander level enemy based on the Legion of Breach. Next, they showed off the Wall Crasher, and I am shocked that there was no, like, I felt like there was very little reaction to this, at least in the crowd, and there was no one in the Q&A that wanted to ask about it. But this is going to be the new field Colossus. So they talked about a field Colossus, like actually fighting in the open field, and something that they had been working on. And Wall Crasher, I think, is a pretty cool, like, name that fits it. It's very generic, but it also fits the vibe of it. It feels very like Attack on Titan, where the Colossus Titans walking and smashing walls. You know, that kind of has that same idea. Now, again, it's hard to get a sense of scale from this just looking at the image, but they did mention that this Colossus is a field Colossus, and it's also twice the size of a normal Colossus. So, you know, if you look at Tormentor or Defiler or something like that, expect the Wall Crasher to be about twice as tall, as far as, like, you know, if most Colossus are 20-meter class, this is going to be a 40-meter class Colossus, so much bigger. They also mentioned that the encounter for this Colossus is going to be 8 players, so it's an 8-player raid on this Colossus. They didn't give too many details on this. They said they'll talk about it on a future date, with this being like a big thing. I'm very curious about what 8 player is going to do to this game. Like, is it going to perform well? You know, if all 8 players are like a Contagion Freyna, or like a weapon spam Serena or Glay or something like that, if they're all spamming, are we going to start getting performance issues on console or PC? Or are we going to get lots of, you know, rubber banding and things like that? That's always a concern when you increase the number of players inside of an area. But if it works well, this is going to be super cool. I think people have been asking for a true raid style encounter. They didn't give us a ton of details. Maybe this is just going to be, you know, another farm fest where you just kill it and die, or Serena one-shots it anyways. But if they do it right, it could be very cool. I get like Zora Magdaros vibes from this, just a big Colossus that you fight. And again, if it's a well implemented encounter with a good, sensible setup on rewards, this could be a very cool addition to the game overall. Next up, they talked about player housing and personal housing in this front. So the big thing here is that this has been asked for many times, and I think given the proclivities for the audience in TFD, this just makes perfect sense. A lot of people focus on the customization, presentation, and the emotional attachment to the characters in the game, so it makes perfect sense to add an area where you can actually engage with that kind of content, you know, like interact with the Descendants, maybe even add more individual stories, and just be able to hang out with them and look at them in a personal setting. So the big thing here is the lounge itself, which looks very much to me like a Cyberpunk 2077 apartment setup. This is going to be your like normal hangout area, and you'll be able to enter this whenever you like. It has a living room, a bedroom, which you're seeing pictured here, as well as a shower booth on top of that. And they also said that it will be a first-person experience, so you will be able to enter into your player housing. It'll switch to first person, and you'll be able to camera around and look and see, you know, the Descendants there. The Descendants will greet you as you enter into the player housing, and they said they will be greeting you while looking you in the eye, so it's going to be more of like kind of connection there. They said it'll be filled with various memories of your time and experience with the First Descendant, which again, based on their description, sounds exactly like the apartment living setup or engagement you have in the Cyberpunk 2077, which is what you're seeing here. You enter first person, you have your own personal apartment, you can walk over and do things, and then also your companions, which you can romance in Cyberpunk, will visit you, hang out with you, you know, conversate with you, that sort of thing. And they also have things that you can add to your apartment that you're able to display based on your experiences in the game, and it sounds like they're going to do that. So potentially medals, achievements, other things like that, and then potentially you can choose whatever Descendant you want to be in the apartment with you. They'll greet you when you come in, look you in the eye, and then you can do crazy stuff by hanging out with them. It sounds like that is the vision for it. And they show kind of a Descendant. That might be Viessa. It's hard to tell from this angle, but they show her kind of hanging out by the window, and this is the bedroom area. But they did mention that it will have a living room as well as a shower booth on top of everything else. So the Gooners are going to have a great time with this one. And they also talked about the new Hoverbike they're adding. This is going to be a Axion Fields exclusive, which means this is only available in the brand new area. So just like we got Sigma Sector, a brand new area that's supposed to be harder, like the normal difficulty of Axion Fields is supposed to be harder than the high risk difficulty of the Sigma Sector. And they said that inside of Axion Fields, you'll be able to ride a Hoverbike. They were asked several questions about the Hoverbike. You know, how fast is it going to be? Am I going to be able to outpace it with like a Freyna build or a Nez build, or if I'm running Bunny or something, or doing infinite grapple, will I be able to outpace it? And they mentioned, no, we expect that the Hoverbike will be faster than all the Descendants, though I guess we'll see. Keelan's pretty freaking fast too, but they did say it's going to be pretty quick. So So you'll be able to use this inside of the Axian fields. They mentioned there will be like race conditions in some cases. There'll be like a time limit mission where you have to get on the hoverbike and get to a certain destination within a period of time. They said some objects in the Axian fields will be destructible by the hoverbike, so while you're on it, you'll be able to drive it around. There will be bike customization, so colors, decals, I'm guessing, and then potentially even more skins and options for the hoverbike as well. And they also said they'll be releasing some rider skins, so I imagine some biker skins or something like that for the Descendants that go along with this, that it's more about riding the hoverbike, though it probably more techy than like, you know, modern day biker, but I guess we'll have to see. Next up, they showed up the new weapon type that will be coming with the Season 3 update, swords. And so this will be a equipable weapon, an ultimate weapon, just like the ones we have now, with a unique ability and stats of their own. You'll be able to equip this in your weapon slot and use it as a melee weapon overall. So some really cool additions coming along with this. The director also mentioned that there will be unsheath attacks where you kind of like, you know, you lean over, you sheath the weapon, and you can unsheath it for an unsheath attack to deal damage in some way. There's a ton of questions around how these might fit into the game. You know, will they be their own ammo type? Because, you know, obviously all of the weapon modules that we have now are pertaining to weapons, right? Swords technically don't have fire rate, though it could be an attack rate or a swing rate, right? So you could hook that into the same system. They're obviously not going to need ammunition, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they try to put some kind of limited ammo system on a melee weapon. There's a lot of questions around how these are going to work and how they're going to fit in, which we'll find out in their dev stream next month in June. So we'll have to wait for that, but it's kind of cool they are adding in, you know, overall weapons into the game. They got some cool vibes to it. So it looks like like 2 of them have a weapon state that they can trigger and activate and get some kind of bonus for, but at least we know that there are melee weapons coming. They will be traditional weapons that you will equip and upgrade. How this will work with modules or weapon cores or ammo types or the need for ammo is a huge question that they didn't answer in this, but at least we get excited that the melee weapons are coming into the game and should be a really cool addition that people have been asking for a long time. Next up, they announced their first collab with a separate IP here. So this one is a big announcement. It was super confusing during the stream because they kind of made it seem like this was going to be a new Descendant added to the game, but it looks like it's not. Based on their description afterwards and everything that we've seen here, this is just going to be 2 separate skins that they will be adding from the Nier Automata collection. So you will be able to get the traditional flared dress 2B. So this will be a skin for, I'm guessing, all the female Descendants. It doesn't seem like there's any male Descendant skins here that they concepted out, though I feel like in the Nier universe, it could have been awesome for them to do like an antagonist skin, like with the you know, mutant antagonist with a long hair. There's tons of different forms you could kind of concept there for the males, or you could even do like any of the robots or mutants in the Nier universe that kind of fit with that, which could be really cool, but it looks like there's not going to be. So based on what they've shown us here, there will be 2 female universal skins coming to the First Descendant with the Nier Automata collaboration. And this is going to be skins, no gameplay, just skins, and it seems like it's for the female Descendants. The first one is the one you see on screen, which is the traditional protagonist 2B. So you'll be able to get this like flared dress 2B, very famous. Most people in gaming have seen this image. So this is going to be the first skin for the females in the First Descendant. And the next one is going to be another universal skin for the females. This looks like a Nez here in the universal skin, but this one is going to be A2, which is a combat droid from the Nier, a little bit less known than others, but she does kind of have this like very commonly depicted as this setup here with like the latex, and then she's damaged and, you know, things got damaged in the process. And this again looks like it's going to be something for those. And it does seem like there's a sword skin here as well. This is very themed to it. And it could be that with the release of swords, there will be either an ultimate weapon or potentially a skin for one of the ultimate swords that turns it into this to match the transition. So you can actually get either 2B or A2 for these, and it does look like it's going to be universal with the hair options to boot. So the bob cut for 2B and the long gray/white hair for A2 as well. Next for skins, they mentioned this a long time ago. I mean, this was like 3 months ago. They showed off a concept for what they're now calling the Gilded Blossom, another universal female skin, which looks like this. It's kind of like a Chipao, but I guess guess a little bit more stylized for the First Descendant, but this one will be another female general skin that you can use on all females. This is showing on Serena and Inez on screen. They next talked about a brand new type of module, which I am shocked that, like, I felt like I was the only one that was listening to the stream and was like, wow, that sounds so cool, talk about it more. They didn't talk about it more, and no one talked about it in the Q&A. There was like questions about dynamic motion in the Q&A. Someone asked about Luna's fingernails being painted, but not her toes. And I'm sitting there like, listen, they talked about a new mod type that sounds interesting. Why didn't no one ask about this? So they mentioned this in passing. They were just like, they talked about it a little bit, but basically this new module type is going to be called a trigger module, and it functions in a lot of ways like a like maybe a gem or a skill modular in an ARPG actually. So, you know, in ARPGs generally you can take a skill and modify it with some, you know, mechanism like a jewel or a gem or some kind of skill modifier or passive skills or something, but you can take that skill and modify it and change it to do something else. And usually we do that through red mods. In fact, no other mods change the functionality of an ability. But they said that they're going to be bringing in a new Descendant module called a trigger module that will be Descendant agnostic, which means any Descendant can use it, and it will trigger events to happen when you meet the conditions of the module. The description they gave of the one mod they talked about was, it will, if you use this module on a Descendant skill that fires a projectile, when the projectile hits the enemy, it will summon a meteor storm at the target location where the enemy was struck. This sounds crazy. So that means that, like, if I shoot the Blair ball, or I shoot the Bunny 1 or something like that, I could trigger a like Greg's Reverse Fate style meteor storm at the target location. You know, if that could scale off my skill power, that could be actually insane. This also has implications for some of the characters that may struggle with AoE. Like you could do like I don't know, like area suppression Sharon and trigger meteor storms while you're shooting projectiles out. Like stuff like that could be crazy cool. It could be crazy broken as well, but a super cool mechanic that they didn't really describe more of, that I guess we'll have more next month for June. So the ability to modify skills with non-transcendent modules that will come in and be able to trigger events like meteor storms when you use them. Pretty neat. They also mentioned the first anniversary, which I believe is early July. They'll be having this major event, tons of giveaways, lots of stuff to watch out. So they also have, when they get to their first anniversary, they'll have this big celebration, and then from this they're also going to show off their long-term roadmap revealed. So they're gonna actually just show off, I imagine, from July onward, maybe the next 6 months or the next year of content, just kind of reaffirming to everyone like, hey, we're in this to win this. We're not giving up. Whether you think the game is lower player count or not, like, we're still sticking to it. So they said that at their first anniversary, there'll be a bunch of giveaways as well as a long-term roadmap reveal. They also said they will be doing a dev live in June, so next month. And during this June dev live, they're going to share the season 3 roadmap, which means that, you know, season 3 episode 1, season 3 episode 2, all the content in season 3, including the stuff that we showed here, and they'll probably show a lot more about what's going into season 3 on top of that. And that is everything they showed for the live stream. Just a reminder that they are going to be adding more stuff going into like this week, basically. So on Thursday, May 15th, they'll be adjusting the balance for Void Erosion Purge, removing penalties tied to skills. On the May 22nd, we're introducing updates including dynamic motion, arcade tuning socket, officially named mutation cells or mutant cells, the new Void Abyss Intercept Battle Ice Maiden, Party Finder, core conversion, and inversion reinforcement presets, as well as a new 4-week-long login event planned for that period. Then June 19th, they'll be working on the external component core and a long-term login event as well, followed by season 3. So all the stuff they've been talking about in the recent term, so dynamic motion, arcade tuning, mutant cells with the sockets, the new Intercept Void Abyss boss battle, Party Finder, core conversion, and then more preset expansions coming as well in the near future. So we do have that coming up. So that is the follow-up for the live stream. Let me know what you think about these, if you're excited about what's coming, and what you think about the season 3 reveal as well down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.